Okay, so I'll go ahead and set bag 119 aside. We'll use it later. And our next step, we'll need actuator number 3, which is the back left leg, bag 120, which is the back left leg assembly, and bag 321, which is the back left leg fan. So from our leg assembly, we're going to take our fan holder, our motor mount, and then a subset of the hardware. Just pour these out. And we're going to save some of this for later. So the big 25mm screws, 4 of those, we're going to put back in the bag. We'll save those to use later. And then we also have 4 M2 10mm screws, and then the rest are 8mm screws. So let's find the 10mm ones. That's these, and we will put these in the bag to use later when we attach the leg. All right, and the rest of these we will use in this step. So that's our 8mm M2 screws and our 6 M2 nuts. And so I'm just going to roll up this bag, seal it, and I'll put it back in bag 120 to use later. All right, I'm going to go ahead and set our fan holder up here with our fan. So our first step, we're going to mount this actuator onto the robot, and it will be oriented like this. And so that means we'll need to put the motor mount like that. So let's go ahead and put our M2 nuts into the right slots on the motor. We'll put our motor mount on. Those holes are aligned. And then we'll use 4 M2 8mm screws to fasten the mount to the actuator. Okay. So now we're going to be mounting this here, and the fan enclosure will sit here, and then 4 screws will come through. But we'll also have at the end a cover that goes over this part of the robot. And so we have these 2 nuts on this side for that cover to mount to, so we'll need to put 2 on this side as well. So let's go ahead and do that with our remaining 2 M2 nuts. That's good. And now let's go ahead and prepare our fan. We've got our fan holder and our fan. We'll go ahead and take the wiring for the fan, bring it from the inside out the hole on the side here. Bring the fan in. We want the label facing upwards with the arrow pointing upwards as well, so that the air flows up and out. And so we'll just slide this fan into place here. Like that. Pull our wire through. Okay. Now let's go ahead and mount our actuator. So go ahead and get it roughly aligned. That. And then we'll put our fan enclosure here. And we will find that alignment again. And then we're going to start with one M2 8mm screw. And we'll fasten that down partially just to get our mount aligned. Take another one, come to the other side, and we'll fasten it down partially as well. All right, seems like these are both aligned pretty well. So go ahead and add the other two screws. It's pretty good. Looks like it is in place and mounted nice and solid. Let's go ahead and route some of these fan wires. So I'm going to take the one for the back right leg. I'm going to put the wire through this hole that's right next to the fan mount. I'll do the same thing for the left leg that we just installed. Push that through. Come back around to this side. And so here we have the right leg and the left leg. So I'm going to take the left leg first. I'm going to route it just around this pie bracket, and then I'm going to bring it between the pie and this rear electronics enclosure and bring it up to plug into the left leg port here. So that's right here on the back. And we'll just insert it into the socket, make sure it's fully in there. It is. Okay. And then we'll take the cable for the right leg and we will plug it into its socket right here. Make sure it's fully in. And we can just tuck this wiring into this area here. All right. And we're also going to flip back over to the top where we have this fan for the case. I'm just going to slide it, the connector, through this hole so that it comes out the bottom. And I'll just pull it through and towards this direction, and we'll connect it in a later step. Okay. So we'll set bag 120 aside. We'll use it later. All right, for our next step, we're going to need actuator number 8, the tail wag actuator, bag number 121, which is the tail mount, and bag 322, which is the tail wag fan. So let's open up the tail mount. And we've got one printed part and some small assembly parts. The printed part will hold the tail actuator motor like this. It slides on. And then that will attach to the back top piece like this. And we'll have a fan in the fan enclosure here. So I'll pull this back out. Let's go ahead and sort out our hardware, which we've got 12 M2 by 8mm screws and 8 M2 nuts. So put our screws here. So we'll use 8 of them to attach the actuator to the mount, and then 4 of them to attach the mount to the back top part of the robot. All right, so first, since this will mount in this clip like this, it's into the bracket like that, we're going to do the 4 corners on each side. So let's insert the M2 nuts that correspond to those positions. Flip the actuator over. Do the same thing on this side. All right. We can go ahead and put this into the tail mount. So go ahead and slide it into place. And then we'll use our M2 8mm screws in these 8 positions to hold it in place. So I'll start by partially tightening a couple of screws on each side. All right, we'll go ahead and fill in the other 2 on each side. All right, so it's got a good, nice grip on the actuator. We're going to go ahead and insert our fan at this point. And so we'll take the cable and bring it from the inside and have it exit out this hole. Go ahead and pull that down. And then we'll want the label facing outward so that the arrow is pointing outward as well. So we'll align that, and we'll slide the fan in through there, just like that. The cable routed like that. All right. So now we're going to attach this like this to the robot. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the actuator cable for the tail wag motor. And you can plug it into either of these ports, but I'll just do this one. And then we'll rotate around and go ahead and get these holes aligned. And we'll use our remaining 4 M2 8mm screws to attach this. That is in place, nice and solid. I'm going to go ahead and take the cable for the fan, and I'm going to push it through this slot, through the back case, and route it through here. Just kind of work with it until it squeezes through. Can use some tweezers to pull it through. There we go. And we'll just bring it around, and it plugs into the TL port for tail. So I'm just going to route it under this wire. Make sure I've got the slack out of it. And then I'll just plug it in right here. And just make sure that it's plugged in all the way. And it is. Okay. And so now we have our tail motor mounted.